Now I'm going to have you switch your hat as a board member, because you've been a board member of many, many companies.
19.
19.
Public, yeah.
And you said that no one wants you on a comp committee.
That is for sure. Yeah, the rationality is not what you're looking for on a company. You're looking for congeniality. You got to win this congeniality.
How do we fix that? Who's in a position to change that and to insist on bulldogs?
It's very, very tough. I mean, Ben Graham was writing about it in the first edition of The Intelligent Investor in 1949. And the best way to affect the behavior of board members really is to embarrass them. I mean, as a practical matter, you know, they're sitting there getting $200,000 or $300,000 a year, and it's a social experience, and they enjoy the people they interact with, and they get taken on trips and all that sort of thing. And so they're not going to rock the boat in virtually any case. But they don't like to be embarrassed, and that's why the press is enormously useful. It's amazing what things have happened after stories have appeared in the press. And institutional investors, if you had the top 5 institutional investors, and when they saw something outrageous, the 5 of them spoke together, and they didn't do it too often. I mean, they really had to be outrageous. And they spoke out, the world would change. But they don't want to do it.
Well, you're speaking to them now, so I hope they listen to you. I'll tell you what.
Well, they speak out on the wrong things too now. I mean,
Yeah.
that unfortunately, to some extent, you lose your impact if you talk on things that really don't count. The trivialization of a lot of the proxy proposals really hurts the serious one, and I would urge institutional investors to really focus on what counts. What really counts, is A, do you ever have the right CEO, and B, does he or she overreach? Now the board should do that for you, and that's all. If boards do that, you can forget about all of these check boxes and everything else.
Sure.
But that's their key function. But if they aren't performing that function, then a few major shareholders just calling them to account would have a huge impact, as long as they don't dilute it by having a dozen other things about, where should the drinking fountain be located?
Well, a part of the problem with that is that the SEC rules make you go through this sort of serpentine process, and it's hard to address them more directly. I hope that the financial reform legislation will change that.
But I think you can. I don't think you actually have to. I mean, the proxy is obviously one way, but I think if there were the top 5 in terms of managing money, if they would speak as one voice on outrageous things, through ads, or they can call a press conference. I mean, they get plenty of attention as long as they don't do it too often and on the wrong things.
Right.
And if they would just come out, and 5 of them would sit in a room representing, we'll name the names, but you know them, and they would just say, this is outrageous, and why? It would change things.
I like your idea about how to make audit committees work more effectively. You say, what are the questions that audit committees should ask?
Well, I came up with these 4 questions, which I'm not going to be able to repeat because I looked at it for a long time. But I've been on a number of audit committees, and I've been on some audit committees where I found out later that some really bad things had been done by the auditors in conjunction with the management. The auditors really worked for the management, and they were more worried about it. I'll put it this way, they were more worried about offending the management than they were about offending the audit committee, and sometimes we didn't know the right questions to ask. So there's 4 questions. These get asked of the Berkshire Hathaway auditor by our audit committee each time. And one of the questions, the most important question, is if the auditor had been responsible for preparing the financial statements himself, would he have done it in the same way? And if not, what changes? Were there any activities that resulted in the movement of expenses or income from one quarter to the next, whether allowed by accounting or not? Were the internal audit functions conducted as if the auditor himself had been responsible for them? None of this passing over stuff. I mean, just explain to me what the management, and if you as the auditor would have done everything in the same way as the management, you tell me that, and then later on, if I find out anything, I'll know that you were on it too, basically.